So this is a video on SQL Loader. I think we're going to need to know SQL Loader and or external tables on the OCM exam. So I've carved out about 11 different examples here. And instead of going through those examples, I think might be more helpful is to show the data and the corresponding control files, what they need to look like. So without further ado, I'm just going to go through these examples and I'll study them separately. So let's just scroll down till we get to those examples. Here's example one. In this particular case, on the left-hand side we have the create table statement, or the DDL for the table, and the data. And on the right-hand side we show what the control file needs to look like. So in this particular case, what's important is that the first line has a title line and we need to skip it. So in this particular case we need to say options skip 1, because skip equals 1 is a command line option. Also, we want the team names to be capitalized, so we make a call out to an Oracle function to upper the team name. In the second example, in the first example, go back, we do a truncate, but in the next example what I want to do is an append. So we already have some existing data in the table. This is what the data looks like. This is a pretty common scenario where it's just comma delimited, and so the SQL Loader control file looks pretty very simple. Load data has the in file of the CSV, in this case, this file, and then it appends into table 2, and the fields are just delimited by comma. In the third example, we have a combination of delimiters. So what's important here is that we have the default line, default field separator, which is a comma, but then we can have individual overrides when we needed to. So this is the default field separator. So for ID, for example, and for the salary, but in some cases the termination is by a different field separator. In this case, a $sign and an uppercase sign. So we can override the default field separator. Another thing to notice here is that this is a date field, and we need to format the date field as follows, using date and this particular format. Also, I wanted to create the external table definition, and that's also very easy. For all of these examples, all we have to do is, instead of do SQL Loader username with the control file, we say all of that, but then in addition we say external underscore table equals generate underscore only. And what that does is it creates a log file that contains, among other things, it contains the definition for the external table. And I think of these things, that's probably one of the most important things for the OCM exam. In example 4, we're going to be, the delimiters are, well, there aren't any. Maybe there's space delimiters, but however, in this particular case we're using absolute positions. So the important thing to note about when you use absolute positions is you need to specify the start and the end column, not the start and the length. So in the first position, the start and the end column is 1 and 3, and that would be the same as the start and the length. But as we go further, for example, for name, that starts in column 5 and ends in column 10, and so on and so forth. So notice that that we end in column 3, there's a space, so we start in column 5, we end in column 10, there are, in this case, 2 spaces, interesting, and we start in column 12, and so on and so on. Notice also the date field is, we format the date field also this way. Notice that in the previous one we can say the date like this, and we could have done that here also, but this is just a call out to the Oracle function for the date field. In example 5, we use relative positioning, and I used a combination of things here. So in the first column I say it's terminated by white space, so that's the fourth column. And then so for the next one, for the name, I want to start with position star, so that's the very next column. But in here I say it's character 6, so it specifies the exact number. I don't say terminated by white space, but we say character 6. So after 6 characters, then we really want to start +1. So we say star +1, and then and so on and so forth. So we can do relative positioning, and it might be helpful to say terminated by white space. And finally, we also have another date field, so we use the oracle function here to do the dates. In example 6, we use the when statement. In this case, I want to insert into this table only when the department is marketing or when the department is sales. I say and here, but what I mean is that when department is marketing, I want to insert into the table, and when the department is sales, I want to insert in the table. In every other case, I don't want to insert into the table at all. SQL Loader does not support OR conditions, so to simulate this particular OR condition where it's either marketing or sales, I actually have to have 2 into statements here. And another thing to note is that when we start off here with, I think we're using some relative positioning here. We want to say position 1, and we want to say position 1 again. So because the oracle will evaluate the position where it is. So in this particular case, once it's finished with this, going through this part, it's going to start in whatever the end of the date field and start evaluating here. So we have to tell it position 1 again so that it knows Department of Sales. So the position 1s are very important. Also note I do the I use the SQL Loader date format here to format the date. This is example 7. In example 7, I just wanted to show here a few things. One is that we don't have to have an in file. We don't have to, let's go back. In this case, we have the in file is a specific file. Here I say in file is star, and which means that there's going to be a begin data section, and here's where the data actually resides. Also note that we can do a few things. We can have certain sequences and constants, and this in this case is the record num, so we can tell it to, this is the first record, second record, third record, as it's doing the inserts. Also note that we can do a division here. We really wanted this to be divided by 100. So, but SQL Loader supports a number of different functions, the recnum, the sequence, and the constant functions, and these are separate from the Oracle SQL functions themselves. This is example 8. This is an important one, I think. Maybe not on exam 3, but maybe on exam 4 or section 4 of the exam, where we deal with lobs, and we might need to insert a lob. So we might need to use SQL Loader to insert a lob, and notice how we do that. In this particular case, the file that has the lobs in it, where the lobs are located, we give the file name. And so then let's look at the control file, and where we get to that section, we call it a filler, and we call it the clob file name. And then later we want to populate the clob content. We say, okay, it's lob file of this of the filler name, so it knows the file name of what the clob content is, and we say terminated by EOF. That's important, and that will load the clobs and blobs for us. Last is the we might need to use either direct equals true or the unrecoverable options. The direct equals true is a true option, which means it goes in the options field, so we need to put it in options just as we did for the skipping of the title line of the data. But for unrecoverable, that goes after the options and before the load data. This just says that there's no logging. It's a no logging parameter. And those are the 9 examples I wanted to show. And that is the end of this particular video.